freaking love it, man. Woo! Dude, that's a good intro,
gosh.
Carlin. That suits us, girl.
Bro, I spent the entire I opened your story this morning and I heard the music and instantly it was like, okay, it's a Metallica day.
All
like,
right.
Just play me some Metallica. Like
Yes, I love it. Dude, I love that this is the first comment. As soon as we go live, 2 seconds into live, Facebook user is like, yo, I freaking love that, man. This is freaking amazing. I wish I knew who this person was. I'm assuming this individual, whoever you are, I love you. I know from your guys' perspective, if you're new to this, you can see your name as you guys are commenting. But if you're in a Facebook group commenting, there's a link right above the video, and it says like grant StreamYard access to share your information on Facebook or your name on Facebook or something to that effect. So if you guys could click that link, if you haven't already, if you're watching this from one of our Facebook groups, go ahead and do that. Luke, oh my gosh, are you kidding me, bro? We have done this 10 years. 10 years now. We've been telling everybody to let Facebook know who you are. There's no excuse. Actually, there's only one excuse, and that it's Friday. Pam Gross White. Dude, you know what? So Pam is going through our current cohort, and we made a special link just for her, and it's called Pamtastic. So that's like the new standard. For those of you guys who don't know Pam, by the way, go freaking hit her up. If you guys are wanting more people to connect with, go connect with Pam. She is such a lovely and beautiful individual inside and out, and it has been such a pleasure to get to know her. I've met her and Derek back in Who's Her Boy Toy. My words, not hers. But I feel like it's appropriate. I feel like we have that relationship now, Pam, where I can start using those descriptive words to articulate myself better. So Pam's boy toy, Derek, who is also my boy toy, but kind of in a different weird. I know I just saw your face, Carlin. You're like, what? No, not in that way. It's kind of like it's more of a bromance than anything. We're all here to grow, Carlin. We're all here to grow. Derek is
I think that's the appropriate context for this situation.
Is it not?
It's not.
Mindset? I don't know, dude. Dude, it's Friday, bro. It's Friday, man. We're just gonna have fun, man. Josh, thank you for being here, bro. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Jeff, let's grow. Dude, speaking of Derek, I heard Derek say that the first time. He was like, let's grow. And I was like, dude, how have I not used that yet? It's always like, yo, and then let's go. And he said, let's grow. And I was like, that's fantastic. Love
and then it stuck.
But aside, I'm kind of having a little bit of a bad hair day, to be honest with you. You guys can probably kind of see I got a little bit of alfalfa going on. Carlin's looks fantastic.
You're just saying that because I told you I was having a bad hair day too.
But you're not having a bad hair day, dude. Yours looks really good.
It's just because my camera is really bad. Like if you could, it's like
Oh man, guys, welcome one and all. Hope you guys are having just as fun today as we are. Thank you guys for being here. I'm really excited about today's episode. By the way, we got a lot of really neat stuff we're going to be going over today. Help you guys, as you guys know. For those of you guys who are new to our podcast, Think Growth, it's Friday, TGIF. It's a podcast that we do every single Friday. For one, to celebrate Friday. Number two is it complements, and we kind of dive into a lot of the stuff that we cover within our coaching program, the Growth Co. And so it kind of coincides. So if you guys are into personal development, if you guys are into mindset, if you guys are trying to elevate not only yourself and your business, because what you'll come to find, I've seen a lot of other coaching programs where they either focus on one or the other. They focus on either the self-development, the mindset stuff, or they focus on the actual business. And as a real estate investor and entrepreneur myself, to me, both of those things just go hand in hand. The lens, the way that you elevate yourself and the way that you build relationships, the way that you see opportunity, the way that you communicate and carry yourself, the habits and behaviors that you put into place, all of those are directly tied to also helping you overcome a lot of those obstacles in the business side as well. So I think they're both very complementary. Luke, I'm assuming this is you. This is weird because I can see you here.
There we go.
But then the next comment I can't see your info, so I'm really not sure where to help you, brother. But Carlin, so we're going to be talking today about live each day with a purpose. And what that means, we're going to give you kind of some things to think about. Now, as Carlin was putting this together, we were kind of having a dialogue a little bit, and I got to thinking living each day with purpose. And maybe this is just where my mind goes, but I am such a big music buff, as many of you guys may know, hence, like, look behind me, right? I used to have a bed sheet back here, by the way, a black bed sheet. And anytime I would wear a hat or something like that was dark, it kind of blended in with the thing. So it didn't like, there wasn't any good contrast. And so I ended up doing like the virtual background. And then with the mic and play, it looked like half my face was missing with the virtual background. It just wasn't correlating correctly. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to have to get like a background. So I started researching like podcast backgrounds, which led me to photography backdrops. And then I found this little nugget and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is it. This is just, it's big, it's loud, and it's music, and I love it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed our podcast intro too. That's where all of this is. Oh man. Alexander, looks better when we can't see your face. I don't know how to take that, brother, but hey, I appreciate you being here either way, man. Thank you. I don't know if that's a typo or if he actually meant it looks better when we can't see your face, but either way, brother, I love you and I hope you have an amazing day. I appreciate you. Oh, speaking of Derek, there he is. Derek, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for being here, guys. So as you guys know, I absolutely love music. Music is a big part of who I am and what I do. And I was listening to a song this morning, and maybe you guys are familiar with it. It's called Numb by Linkin Park. Carlin, have you ever heard this song?
I do know Linkin Park, Jesse.
Okay, but do you know the song? I know you know
I do.
Linkin Park.
I could actually,
know Linkin
if
Park?
I didn't sound like a broken horse, like a dead dying dog or something singing, I know the words to that song. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So my kids were singing that this morning in the shower. And if you haven't heard like 4 kids, just be like, I've become so numb. Dude, it's like the coolest thing ever. From your 8-year-old all the way down to your 2-year-old, just belting it out. It is literally the best thing in the world. So I had this thought as they were singing it this morning. And it was interesting because I've never really paid attention to the lyrics. I mean, I've sang this song during karaoke. Love Linkin Park. I know the song like the back of my hand, but I had a weird thought when it came to these lyrics and kind of the transition rather that a lot of us make as entrepreneurs and the struggles that we go through with regard to kind of changing our mindset, because there's a big change. There's a big transformation that we have to go to with regard to how we grew up, the thoughts that we carried, the limiting beliefs that we carried, the scarcity mindset that a lot of us grew up with. And making that pivot, there's a lot of times, especially when you're trying to figure out how to separate yourselves from people that you used to hang out with, and you quite haven't secured enough success yet to where you're consistently meeting with new groups of friends that's actually doing stuff. So when you're caught in the middle of that window, it is so pivotal in any entrepreneur's life because you don't quite have the new friends yet. And you know that you need to let go of your old friends. And it's a lonely road, bro. Not to throw another Green Day reference out there, but it's a lonely road. And it was interesting because I was listening to my my kids sing the song. Let me share something with you guys. Let me look these lyrics up. So the lyrics start out, and I kind of want to get this thought out real quick, and I think it would serve as kind of a good preface for the things Carlin and I are going to go into today. So, and one of the things that I love about music, by the way, guys, and I'm sure a lot of you guys that are watching this probably share the same thought and the same love for music, because it's so uniting. I don't mean Carlin are two people that are specifically very into like the arts. So whether that's music, whether that's actually art itself, we love the arts. And one thing I love particularly about music is it's so uniting. I mean, whether you're into Metallica, whether you're into Madonna, whether you go to a Garth Brooks concert, whether you're out and attending a Biebs concert, for the most part, I don't ever remember going to any kind of a concert and there being any sort of divide
Nope.
in the crowd. Nobody's there asking you what your politics are, what your religion is. Nobody's thinking any less of you. As a matter of fact, most of the time, in my experience anyway, it's more uniting than anything. Everybody's there for the energy, the music, the positivity, the vibrations. And it's really kind of just an uplifting experience. It's so uniting in a way that I can't really think of one other thing off the top of my head that just is as uniting as music can be in a lot of different ways. And so for that reason, it's been very impactful in my life personally. But obviously those personal things, they correlate a lot with the professional things that I'm doing. And so that's kind of why I wanted to go down this rabbit hole real quick, so to speak, and just kind of share some of my thoughts on this. But again, we're talking about the song Numb by Linkin Park. And another great thing about music is that there isn't any wrong answer. Like a lot of times the intended message for the audience is for them to interpret lyrics and the message that is in that song in a way that can be done 20 different times or 20 different ways even. So he could be even singing about like one person, or this song could be about one girl, but you could have somebody else who hears this, and because of the circumstances of things that are going on in their life, they totally take that song and they interpret it a completely different way. And so I want to share, I'm going to read some of these lyrics to you real quick. So the song starts out, it says, "I'm tired of being what you want me to be. Feeling so faithless, lost under the surface. Don't know what you're expecting of me. Put under the pressure of walking in your shoes." And when I think about that first verse right there, Carlin, it reminds me of like how I was raised. It reminds me of how I was raised to think about things, how I was raised to think about success. And there's probably a lot of times in our lives where we do something because that's what our parents did. That could be a job. Maybe you went to college because that's what your parents encouraged. Maybe you guys are part of a certain religion because that's what your parents I don't know if push is the right word, but that's what they were involved in. And so just as a consequence, as a byproduct, you're naturally thrown into that environment. And I'll use myself as an example real quick. I joined the Air Force and I did 14 years because that's what my dad did. My dad was in the Air Force and his dad was in the military. So as a consequence, that's kind of, what I did. And so I'm going to read those lyrics again real quick with that context now. "I'm tired of being what you want me to be, feeling so faithless, lost under the surface. Don't know what you're expecting of me, put under the pressure of walking in your shoes." I feel like there's so many times, especially for probably who are watching this live right now and people who will be watching and or listening to this later, you're probably here because at some point you had a thought of your own that was like, man, you know what? I'm meant for more. There's more that I could be doing. There's more to life than just the 9-to-5 grind, than working 40 to 50 hours a week for 40 to 50 years. Would you agree, Carlin?
I would, and I think it gets a little bit overwhelming when you're stuck in that weird limbo of not really too sure if you have to do that versus like you see this direction. Let me preface this. Growing up, I had huge goals and ambitions. My dad is a mechanical engineer. My mom has welding and engineering stuff as well. And so growing up, I felt like, okay, I have to join the Navy like my parents did, or some sort of military branch. Joke's on me. My eyesight and asthma and all sorts of mental health stuff. They're like, no, we don't want you. Good try though. And so that wall, it was almost like a blessing in disguise because I thought I had to walk in my parents' shoes. I thought I had to do all of this, but in my mind I was like, but I really want to do, like, I really want to have animals, and I really want to, contribute to the environment. And I really want to do this, this, and this. And so there was that idea growing up where I knew the purpose that I wanted to fulfill,
Mm-hmm.
but there is that feeling that I had to fulfill the purpose that my parents had already lived out. So
Mm.
it's really interesting, like, especially being in that power struggle where you're not quite sure what you're doing and how to actually live a purposeful life because you don't really have the clarity on what living a purposeful life is yet.
Mm. I like that. I totally agree with that. And after, for with and you guys that are watching and listening to this, you guys can probably resonate with a lot of this stuff as well, where at some point in your life there was probably some point where either it was a job, or maybe you were at a certain event surrounded by a certain group of people, and you felt like I either do fit in or I don't fit in, and I've got to make a change. And for the longest time I always felt, for 14 years in the military, I was like, dude, um like I feel like I could just be doing more, you know. I feel like I was meant for more, and it just I could never figure out what that thing was or how to accomplish that thing. And the only reason I stayed in for 14 years was because that's what my dad pushed. He's like, dude, like, stay in there, retire at 20 years. And then, of course, anybody who's ever served in the military knows that, your retirement from the military ain't nothing. I think it's like $1,800 a month or something like that. So it's not like you're living off it. It's not like it means a whole lot in terms of um the actual word retirement. Not like you get to retire. You still got to go get another job and all those other things. But you know, then the next part of the lyrics, they say, every step that I take is another mistake to you. And then underneath that, it's caught in the undertow, just caught in the undertow. And I'm just reminded of that. Like, there's so many times where I wanted to get out, and every time that I took that step to try to see what else there was, it was seen as like another mistake to my dad, who's super supportive of me now, by the way. But at the time, it was just something that was unfamiliar with him. And so it just it keeps us in this hamster wheel of like, man, should I get off? Do I not get off? Do I pivot right or left, or do I stay in the same spot? And so anyway, I'm having all of these thoughts as my kids are singing these songs, and then here comes the chorus. It says, I've become so numb, I can't feel you there, become so tired, so much more aware. I'm becoming this. All I want to do is be more like me and be less like you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, if that just doesn't describe the things that I've been through, and when you're making that change and you're like, man, this is not the right path for me. But then, especially when you're caught in that middle between separating yourself and officially putting a foot down and saying, I'm making this leap, I'm going to try it, I'm going to bet on myself. And then you go through the motions of being an entrepreneur. There's absolute complete highs, and you're on cloud nine, and in an instant you could be down in a valley. But Carlin, you shared something with me about valleys real quick. Share that with everybody else. I love what you're saying. And dude, like, it was literally like one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard.
Well, I think a lot of people, when they think of the highs and lows, they think that they have to be on the top of the mountain. Like, that's, yeah, you've got a pretty good clear picture up there. But for me personally, I like the flowers. I like seeing the growth, and I like seeing all of the beauty that's in that. And while there are some pretty nice things at the top of the mountain, the flowers and the beautiful stuff, those generally grow in the valleys.
Mm-hmm.
I love it so much. Like, I think of like each little step to me in my brain is just like another little iris or a little daffodil or some pansies or something like that that just pops up in the valley, and it's just like, man, okay, And when you get up there to the top of that mountain and you're looking down, you're seeing all of these beautiful flowers that
Hmm.
you finally get to look at. And it was really hard trying to go down there and figure out what they needed to be, where they needed to go, but the growth is there.
That's where the growth comes in, and it's a beautiful place. Like you said, that's where the flowers grow, is in the valleys. I
And there's
love that. And
very
so
pretty.
making that jump and just betting on myself, even in those valleys when it doesn't seem like there's a growth, it doesn't seem like there's momentum. It just seems like you're stuck in the trenches. That's where this song, and that's where the lyrics really kind of came into play, especially once you hit that chorus. I'm gonna read that chorus again for you one more time, because the first verse kind of leads up to that. Like you're feeling like you're not you. You feel like you're trying to live for someone else and live under somebody else's footprint or expectations of what they want you to be. And I'm going to read this chorus again because I feel like it just resonates with so many things that I have been through. So once again, guys, I'm going to read this chorus again. I've become so numb, I can't feel you there. And a lot of times that's what you have to do. That's kind of the equivalent for me. Like when you have to become numb to the criticisms and the voices of the people that you're cutting off, to include family. You have to be freaking numb to that shit. I've become so numb, I can't feel you there. Become so tired, so much more aware. Now I'm becoming this. Now that I've stepped over here and I'm making this transition and I'm becoming this, all I want to do is be more like me and be less like you.
I think one of the important things there is, at least for me, that dynamic shift didn't happen until I realized that I was the only person I was competing with.
Mm.
And so I spent all this time trying to make other people happy, do all these things for other people, going, okay, are you happy yet? Does this make you happy? Are you happy? And I had to take a step back and be like, wow, I'm doing a lot of things for a lot of people and I'm not happy.
Mm.
I don't feel good about what I'm doing. I feel really tired, actually. And that's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's relevant to what Lincoln Park is saying. Like, I feel exhausted. I'm tired. I'm trying to do all these things to make you happy, to whether it's your parents or your friends or your aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas, whatever it is. I was trying to make all of them happy.
Yeah.
And finally, there's just this one day where it was like, bing, light bulb. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not happy. What? I want to be happy.
Yeah.
And for context, happiness is a choice.
Yeah.
And the things you do for other people is a choice. So
Mm-hmm.
you can choose to stop doing all these things for other people and you can choose to be happy and you can choose to allow that feeling. I still love helping people. Don't get me
Mm-hmm.
wrong. It's You will see me jump through hoops to make the people I care about happy. But I'm not going to sacrifice my own happiness and my own purpose to try and make sure everyone else is happy before me, because I've got a family, I've got kids, I've got a husband, I've got business partners that I need to make sure are taken care of. And if I'm not happy and I'm not thriving personally, you're all going down. And that's a problem. So when you start sacrificing your happiness and your energy and your purpose and your reasons and your whys and your values and your principles, when you start sacrificing all of those to try and suffice and make sure everyone else around you is happy, you're doing more damage than good. And I
Yeah.
think, especially in entrepreneurship, that's something that we really, really have to be cognizant of, because everything we do as business owners and as entrepreneurs is working with and for and around other people. And if I'm trying to do something that I'm not successful at, for one, and I'm not fulfilled in,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm draining my own emotional tank. I'm draining my mental energy, and it takes away from everything I know I am capable of to contribute to the people around me.
100%. I think Jeff hit the nail on the head, man. You can't help others until you help yourself.
Hmm. And that's something that I feel like you hear a lot, and until you really get that full understanding, you're just like, I don't know what you mean by helping myself. Like
Yeah.
I am helping myself. I'm doing this, and it's such a skewed version in a lot of people's heads because the way we grew up in society is very, very counterproductive almost. Like you go through school and they say, well, you can't take this test with other people.
Hmm.
You're like, okay, I won't take the test with other people then. And then you get through that test and the kid next to you fails. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, why didn't you help him? If you understood the work, why didn't you help him? Well, because you told me to do it by myself. So am I supposed to do it by myself or am I supposed to help the person next to me?
Hmm.
And it's this really weird limbo, I think, with society at this point. And once you take that breath of fresh air, it's like, oh, I can do whatever I want and I can
Hmm.
do whatever I'm capable of. And
Yeah.
if I'm good at something, I'm going to use that to my advantage and I'm going to teach people and I'm going to show people what I am capable of, but not at the expense of my own energy. So you get to live this life that you grow up feeling purposeful towards, but don't have any direction to go towards.
Yeah.
And it's this catastrophic shift almost where you get to this point where you're like, I can do what I want to do, and there's nobody holding me back but myself. And once you let go of your own reins and let the floodgates open, it's just freeing, I think.
Dude. Oh my gosh. Yes. Freeing is like the perfect word. And I think that's part of the hard part of making that transition between cutting your friends off and then you're trying to make new friends and you're kind of in this wave because you haven't gotten success yet. And so it's freaking lonely. And not only that, part of why mindset is so pivotal, especially in this moment, because for a lot of people, like they have that fear of success. And sometimes, and especially for me, after how I grew up thinking about money and all this other kind of stuff, like money was treated like a bad word, you know? And so I felt wrong, Carlin, for even wanting more money. Like in my head, I'm like, dude, like I deserve more money. Like, why should I not go out and make it? Like I can help more people by making more money. But so many people will make you feel guilty. And that's part of some of the feelings that I know I've personally felt. Is there anybody else watching this that can resonate with this, by the way? Is there anybody else here who people have said to you, like, no, making money is bad. It's going to change you. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. You can't go make more money. But they'll be the first people at a point in time when they need a new bed, they need a new couch, they need a new car. And they're like, man, we can't afford this. We need to, your dad's working overtime. He's got to do X, Y, and Z, or, whatever. We encourage people to not talk about money and to make them feel inferior or less than they should for wanting abundance. And that's part of why that song hits me so much, Carlin, is because you have to become numb. I've become so numb, I can't feel you there anymore. I can't feel that. I'm freeing. And part of that is knowing that it is freaking okay to feel that way. It is okay to feel. God put those thoughts. If you have those thoughts in your head, I've begun to realize over the last year, especially, that more and more, it's okay to want more money. It's okay to want to do bigger things. It's okay to not want to live a mediocre fucking life. And if you have those thoughts, God put them there. He didn't give them to anybody else. He gave them to you. And God makes no mistakes. So the fact that you want that is perfectly fine. And if anybody else isn't in alignment with that, that's the universe telling you, dude, these guys don't align with what it is you're trying to do. You have to become numb to those that are around you so that you can be less like them and more like you.
I think the fun part is getting to figure out who you are. Because I can tell you the last 2 years, I've learned more about myself than I ever thought I ever would. And it's been fun to to explore like the things that I care about, and because I'm finding there are things I care about that I didn't even think I cared about 10 years ago. And I actually, so Jesse, you of all people know, like this last week has had a lot going on in my household between family and military and all sorts of stuff. It has
Absolutely.
been a lot. And so my mom came down, and I love my mommy, guys. Don't get me wrong. My mommy, I love her. Um but she has a very specific mindset that challenges me, I guess you could say, because I personally, my brain's like, I want billions. I don't want the M, I want the B.
You got elephants to go ride, Carlin.
I got elephant. No, we don't ride them, Jesse. We
Oh, you
don't
don't?
ride the elephants.
Oh, okay. I thought you did, man. People do in
No.
the movies. I don't know.
I know. You just don't. That's a whole different podcast.
All right, fam. Don't ride your elephants.
Don't ride the elephants unless you're in Indonesia and they teach you how to do it correctly. Um, but her and I were kind of going back and forth because I mean, anyone I've worked with, I'm on my phone all day. I'm calling people. I'm texting people. I've got emails. It's part of the entrepreneur life, right?
Mhm.
When you're starting companies and doing things, it's a lot of work. And to me, I enjoy it. I enjoy that. I enjoy the grind because to me, it's not. I'm
Mhm.
talking to people I want to be talking to. I'm talking to people who want to make money with me. I'm talking to people who have the same goals and ambitions. Probably not the elephants, but big picture more or less.
Yeah.
And my mom was getting frustrated with me. She was like, "You are always on your phone. Everyone is always on their phone." And I'm pretty patient. So I
Yeah.
just let her have her thing. I just let her listen. She goes, all everyone cares about is money." And so we're in the Walmart parking lot. I ran into the store, came back out, and my mom's sitting in the passenger seat and she's frustrated. And she says, every single person that came out of that store was on their phone. And finally, I was just like, I can't bite my tongue anymore. And I looked at her and I said, why does that bother you? Why does it matter? You have no idea what these people are doing. For me being on my phone means that as much as I work right now, that's going to be able to give my family the freedom that they want. I'm going to be able to take my kids to travel, go meet other people in other countries, learn other cultures, try new foods. It's a lot of work now. But if I want it to pay off, and it will, mark my words, it will pay off, then that just means I have to put on a little bit extra work. Like I didn't ask anyone to come down here to criticize my lifestyle. I asked for help. And if you're not here to help me, I don't need you around currently. Don't get me wrong. I love you, but I can do a lot on my own without listening to the criticisms and complaints. And me wanting money doesn't end at my family. I want to save some elephants. I want to open a chain of indoor playgrounds for kids to be able to learn and grow and develop because that's our next generation. That's what's important. I've got big dreams and I cannot be hindered by one or two people's criticisms and complaints. Don't get me wrong. I can handle it. It's just annoying to me.
100%. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It kind of just leads into waking up with intention and living each day with purpose. Like when you're cognizant of those things and you have the clarity and you know where the highs are, where the valleys are, who you need to align yourself with, who you need to start separating yourself with, who you need to become numb from, so to speak. Having some of that clarity and being able to wake up with intention, I think is a very pivotal and foundational, thing. Ready to wake up and take control of your day. I think especially when it comes to businesses, I was having a conversation with Shane actually this morning.
Yay,
and he and I were talking about control. And there's a lot of people, I think, right now in their businesses, they're not waking up. And I use this metaphor all the time, but I think it just holds so much weight. We have these big things that we want to accomplish, but we're waking up as if it was just on freaking accident. There's no intention with our day. There's no structure to our day. How many people do you talk to a day that you are not making money with? But a lot of people don't take the time to stop and consider that and be like, who did I just talk to? What did I miss? If we didn't walk away with next steps for follow-up or an action plan or something like that, why? And then again, when you look at it through the lens of I'm huge on extreme ownership. If something doesn't work, if something fails, if something, even if it's somebody else's fault, then you look at it through the lens of this was my fault. If somebody else, even on your team or under your charge, didn't do something, or something didn't happen, or something fell short, or something didn't go the way that it was supposed to, you look at everything through the lens of this is 100% my fault. Where could I have been a better supporter? Where could I have better communicated? What questions could I have better articulated? So there's just a lot of people, I think, that are missing, even something as small as control. I think a lot of people are more concerned with trying to look at higher stuff. They're more concerned with like calling sellers, for example. Clearly that's a money-making activity, but little things like intention, like setting up and structuring your day, waking up as if it wasn't on accident, having control. What does control actually mean? Do the people in your charge, are there SOPs? Are there outlines created for what they are supposed to do? Are there expectations? What does the follow-up look like? What does the communication look like? There's just a lot of people that, we could make an entire episode on just control and things that a lot of people, it's these small things that make the big differences. It's not how many sellers can you call a day. It's the small things that turn people from the 99% into the 1%. It's the small things, and it's small things like intention and control and communication and expectation and having the right habits and iterations and thoughts and behaviors in place. Because all of those culminate into although they seem small, they culminate and they make the biggest impact. But Carlin, talk about that a little bit. Wake up ready to own it. I know you're reading a book right now. We've got book club later. How does all this play into what is the book you're reading right now, and how does that all play into setting up our day and living more purposefully and intentionally?
So, first of all, the book is called Find Your Why by Simon Sinek. And I have put this book on my top 5. And it's just powerful. I feel like everything he's saying is powerful. First of all, I think one thing that is important to recognize is not everything in your day will be in your control. What is in your control always is your response to it. So I had a plan for my entire day. I sent you a screenshot. I was like, look, dude, here's what I'm gonna do today. It's gonna be so great.
Yeah.
And none of that has gone the way I had expected. Like, I had meetings scheduled at the wrong times, which was very confusing because it was like our meeting this morning. I was like, oh, it's at 10 a.m. Way good. I'm in Mountain Standard Time. That meeting was 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And so all these things are just interweaving, and even though I had a plan and I thought I had control of my day, throughout that entire experience, within the catastrophe of everything I'm trying to juggle at one time, I'm sitting here going, okay, I'm okay. I'm all right. And I think it's a testament to Mike Key, actually, our guest from last week. He said something that really, really resonated with me. He said, a lot of people let their actions follow their emotions. And so that's something that was like, okay, so I want my emotions to follow my actions. So I'm going to do my actions anyway. And I have the control over my emotional response. So even though something is out of my control when I thought I did have it under control, I'm not going to let it bother me, because that's just how life goes. It has unexpected twists and turns. And while we do have the control over ourselves and what we want to be doing, that doesn't mean that's always going to happen.
Yep.
So to me, it's important, and I will forever beat the crap out of that. And I know I say it in almost every single episode. Having a journal, guys, is so important because if I woke up and I didn't have my plan, even just a little small outline of what I wanted to do, even if only like 3 of those things have gotten accomplished,
Mm-hmm.
it's just when all of these things are going to chaos and you're sitting over here like practicing your deep breathing, you're like 1 2 3 in, 1 2 3 out, 1 2 3 in, and you're going through like these motions of regulating yourself. You can look down at that list and say, okay, well, I can't do this right now, that's out of my control, but what I can do is this next one. So even though my meetings fell through and that was a whole shit show on its own, what's in my control? What can I control? What do I have control of outside of myself? Honestly, realistically, depending on who you ask, the answer is going to be nothing. But I can anticipate our podcast. That's something I have control of. I will always be present for these. I can anticipate the structure of that, and even if things are a little bit disorganized, find that one thing that you're like, okay, I got this. Having that organization, having that structure, having that journal is just so valuable. When things feel out of control,
Mm-hmm.
it brings you back to your purpose, it brings you back to your why. And that's something that gets reiterated in Find Your Why, is what is it that drives you?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that brings you back to your center? Is for me helping the next generation and having elephants on this huge piece of land that I can just go chill with some elephants and give them some bananas or whatever. That's my why. I have a vision of being able to create a better world. And as disorganized as my days get sometimes, that's something I can always go back to and bring myself back to earth with.
I love that. You mentioned a lot of really, really great things right there. But again, these are all small things that I think a lot of people overlook. And something as simple as journaling and creating a list and knowing what your why is. Because it all plays into a factor. Like, you're not always going to be motivated when if you got a 9 to 5 and you get home from work and you've either got to make phone calls, you got meetings, or whatever. I know so many people who are like, hey, you know what? Actually, as a matter of fact, I won't say who this was, but I was supposed to be on somebody's podcast on Sunday, and was super excited. And this guy, I love this gentleman, but this is just one example of like a million. I've had people. I was supposed to be on this podcast. We were supposed to have a podcast on Sunday, and he had a birthday last week, and he was like, "Hey, I've got family coming over today. So, let's reschedule this for like November or whatever," which is fine. But my point being is that, where's this individual's mindset in terms of when it comes to making money? I know a lot of people I think they're a little more blind to the people that they're working with. You have people who you see this all the time, especially with new people, where it's kind of like the blind leading the blind in a way. And, just little things like that. Well, it's no big deal, but that like speaks volumes to where like he needs to cancel his entire day. He doesn't have 30 minutes to build a relationship with somebody because his family's coming over and they're going to celebrate his birthday for however long. I have no idea. And I think that's something to be said. Not that I think like I'm all that in a bag of chips or anything. I would use that as an example for anybody. I've got a lot of people who cancel meetings because they're like, hey, my kids aren't asleep yet. And at Carlin, you and I are doing podcasts and stuff. Well, juggling 10 kids, live. You know what I mean? It's just that's the mindset. You know what I mean? And that's why the things that we're talking about can't be overlooked. You have to be so intentional with them because they make the biggest freaking differences. And I love what you said, because if you can't handle those things, if you have a birthday and you can't figure out how to prioritize a 30-minute meeting with somebody or 30-minute podcast with somebody, how are you going to do the big stuff? How you do anything is how you do everything. And something as minute as that, again, this isn't me judging, but I just want to use this as a very real example because I see this all the time. If this isn't something that you're cognizant of, or if you haven't considered, consider it, because that just goes to show that you actually don't have as much control over yourself, your day, your business as you think you do. And that and like this morning, I was at the gym and there was a wadded up used paper towels that were just sitting on the sink. Like somebody like washed their hands, dried them off with paper towel, and then just like left them on the sink. I grabbed those paper towels and threw them away because I have control over my life. I have control of my environment. And so I cognitively look at that and I tell myself that. Like I didn't throw them away because like I'm a good steward and I just want to keep things clean, although I do. But my first thought of looking at that was not in my house. Like I want that type of control over every aspect of my life and over my entire environment. And that's the first thought that I had. So I love what you said, and being able to document those thoughts is something. It's such a great tool that I think a lot of people overlook or don't consider.
James is home.
Yes. I love James. James. I always want to sing that song from James and the Giant
losing
Peach.
crap.
So to kind of wrap this up real quick, let's go over a couple things. Start your day with a plan. What are some of your tips and tricks rather that you do to start your day with a plan? What does that mean? Because it ties into like not waking up as if it was on accident.
Well, for starters, this morning was a fun twist because if Jesse hasn't told you already, I joined the iPhone community. And I'm still learning that, but apparently my phone didn't charge last night. So I woke up late because my phone died. I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to go make some breakfast. And so I think the first and foremost is unexpected things do happen. And that is one of those things you cannot control.
Mm-hmm.
How you respond to those unexpected things is 100% in your control.
Yes.
So for me, I always have my day planned out. Let me back up. It's not always. 9.9 times out of 10, I have my day planned the night before. So I know where I'm going to go, what I'm going to be doing, who I'm going to be talking to, what meetings I'm going to be in, what podcasts I have, what outlines I need to make. That's all pre-planned.
Okay.
Granted, today was a nice learning lesson on making sure I have my time zones correct. so that was out of my control.
But I love that even you're cognizant of that, because I know a lot of people would overlook that and they would just think, fuck, man, like today's just like kind of a shitty day. I'm all like discombobulated. But you're consciously, even now, like after, like post, you're looking back at it and you're like, okay, time zones. Moving forward, I'm going to make sure like that's going to be on your radar because you have control of your environment. You have control of your day.
Yes. Fun experience, I will say. I got to the meeting on time, like a little bit late because I was doing a couple other things. So
we're there. You made it.
I made it.
So it was a busy morning for all of us.
Yeah, it was fun though. It was a very good perspective on how much I can juggle at one time.
TGIF,
man. So I always have my work separated. Don't mind the duck. I have my work separated and I have my home separated. And those two things go side by side so I can cross-reference to make sure I'm on track with each one of those things. Mm-hmm. So in order of importance, starts at the top. So what I need to be having done immediately goes at the top. Meetings are scheduled, so everything needs to work around those. Mm-hmm. And then today, in the meeting, I was actually driving to a doctor's appointment for my son. So that was on my home schedule. So anything involving my kids, anything they want to do or need to do, that directly correlates. And so I have these paralleled so I can see exactly how everything is running. And
Mhm.
as I go through them, they get checked off. So as soon as I finish something, I cross them off. And to me, that's really important because it's that visible cue that I already did it, so I don't need to worry about it anymore. But when I
Mhm.
go back and look at my journal that night
Mhm.
and recap on my day, it's a nice feeling of those things I did have control over. I lived my day with the purpose that I had intended it to.
Yeah.
And while things do go disarrayed in not just my life, but everyone's life, it's still as overwhelming as the day feels. You can still look back and say, I did accomplish something. It was a little bit overwhelming, but there's that gratitude. There's that good feeling at the end of the day. It's like, I did it.
Yeah.
I accomplished it and it is done. And, you know, you and I both beat the crap out of this with our kids, but if you have kids, they get to see that. They see that reflection from what you're doing. And so if that's something that's important to you, your kids can look at that and say, "Hey, my parents' day was a little disorganized, but they did it. They accomplished it." And in our household, that's really important because life is unexpected, but there are things that you can control, and that is something that we preach regularly to our children.
Now, like children, they get breaks and recesses and things like that. Do you ever take breaks at all in your day? Do you ever
Try.
like block out time for that if you can, or?
I do actually. So one of the things that's important to me is and I will admit I do need to get better at scheduling breaks. But let's see, there he is. But one thing that's important to me is like I have a dedicated bath time, and James actually locks the door so the kids can't go in there, and that's usually when I do my reading. And to a
Mhm.
lot of people, the reading sounds, oh, that sounds like more work. Reading is how I relax and decompress.
Yeah. So that's your designated time block.
Hmm.
Dude, I remember when I first started waking up really early because my body wasn't used to it. Like there's a lot of different ways you can do it when you're wanting to kind of rearrange your schedule. Sometimes, you'll start if you want, like if you're wanting to wake up earlier as an example. Sometimes people will start out, they'll set their alarm 15 minutes earlier than they normally do, and then 30 minutes earlier, and then 45 minutes earlier, and then an hour earlier, and they kind of do it incrementally. And I remember I just kind of did it cold turkey. I was used to waking up at 5, and then I started setting my alarm for 3 and getting up at 3. But man, because I started waking, my body wasn't used to it, and so I'd have to take these naps in the middle of the day. But when you're talking about structuring your day and prioritizing it, I always made sure that taking and sometimes I'd take an afternoon snooze for an hour, from like 10:30 to 11:30. That's like woof, that's like right there, man. I grab my daughter, my 2-year-old, everybody else is at school, and just kind of take a nap, just catch up, because everything that we're doing is all about energy. It's not about getting up early and then working 19 hours a day just for the sake of doing it. I think it's important to get uncomfortable, but there's a balancing act with being an entrepreneur. Things are, it's all about energy, and it's great to get uncomfortable because being able to wake up early, even though I know nobody else is willing to, like that in and of itself, just knowing that, just being able to wake up at 3 a.m. gives me energy. And so come 3 a.m., like I'm like, all right, let's go, let's grind. I know everybody else is still sleeping, and I'm getting a leg up on my competition. I'm getting a leg up on the day. I'm still competing. I'm 4 hours behind everybody else Eastern time, and I'm still competing with everybody. So I love that. But it's all about energy, man. And if you need to, it's a you try to it's a balancing act to an extent, and you try to balance it as best as you can. But um, everything is energy. If you're working 18 hours a day and you're busy as hell, but you're not giving all of your energy into it, then what are you doing? You're not really being as productive or as intentional as you could be. I know
Well,
with
and
a
that's
lot of things, sometimes I'll time block like 15 minutes, like a daunting task, I'll do it like over a period of like 2 weeks, and I'll time block it in like 15-minute increments, just so I know I'm done with that stupid thing in 15 minutes. But I can go all in, turn my phone off, like everything else for this 15 minutes, and just go, ape shit on it.
Well, and when you do it that way too, it also starts fueling it that it's not that bad. So the next day gets a little bit easier, and the next day gets a little bit easier, and the next
Mm.
day is easy, and then the next day you're like, I got this. This is
Mhm.
easy. This
Yeah.
is no brainer. So it's you're most of it is just training your brain to do the things that you need it to do, because that's not something most of us grow up learning how to do. Like, it's like, okay, memorize these things so you can take this stupid test and then forget everything you ever learned because it's irrelevant.
Oh my gosh,
Like,
talk about an energy sucker. Man, school
I
sucks.
didn't no dude,
Used
I
to
didn't
hate
even
school, bro.
show up for school. like like
Yeah.
18, they're like, I was like, yeah, I'm not coming back.
So like
Like,
Miri said, guys, breaks are important to rejuvenate. So far, Carlin, to kind of wrap this thing up, we've got a couple more things we'll hammer on real quick. Start your day with a plan. Focus on the things that matter most. Prioritize. Take breaks. Number 4, be present. This was something, especially when it came to like meditating and all that kind of stuff, I never really understood why that was so stinking important. But like we were talking about at the very beginning, just especially when you're in this valley, specifically, everybody goes through it. This valley of making that initial pivot, man, from your W2 or whatever, and you're trying to separate yourself from the people that you used to be friends with, making new friends, but you're not quite seeing that momentum yet to get really and start connecting with really the people that you're wanting to connect with. Sometimes that can be a little bit harder, and it's kind of lonely, and it's anxiety inducing, and at the same time it is depressing.
yep.
And anxiety and depression are from two different aspects. And so when I got into meditation and started learning more about our mindset, our thoughts, our feelings, and how all that influences our actions, anxiety is induced from thinking about the future. In short, I mean, there's more to it than that, but mostly due to being worried about the future. And a lot of times, none of that, all that stuff's in our head anyway. That's a whole nother story. But so anxiety comes from being worried about the future, and depression comes from being concerned about the past. And so when you're on this journey of entrepreneurship and you're trying to build something or do something you've never done, and it's hard, and you're in this valley and you're trying to stay consistent because you know you're not motivated. So you're trying to develop the necessary skills and disciplines to ensure that you're on track for hitting those goals and those milestones. It's so important to remain in the present, because when you're not worried about the future and when you're not worried about the past, you're neither depressed or anxious as much. And you can be time blocked, you can be intentional, and man, you just get more done. It's been so uh, life changing. It's been so game changing for me to really understand that. I know when me and my wife, whenever we go out like on dates, we'll get a sitter and go out on dates, or hell, even if we have the kids and we're just like, it's just, we go to Red Robin or something and we're just overlooking the mountains that we can see from Red Robin, and it's just the kids and the sunshine is out and it's just this gorgeous and most beautiful day. It's like this picture perfect thing. And my wife will catch me every now and then, and I'm just using that as an example, but she asks me this all the time. I find myself doing this all the time. Sometimes we're all on the four-wheelers doing stuff and kind of pause and just take it in, and she can tell that I'm thinking, and she's like, "Hey, how are you feeling? What are you thinking?" And oftentimes now my response is like, "I'm not. I'm literally just here in the present, in the now, just taking this all in, and it's absolutely amazing." And I love that it's helped me when I'm focused, when I'm on a call, that's where my attention is. When I'm with my wife, that's where my intention is. When my kids are home from school, and it's my time with them, that's where my attention is. So being in the present has been so transformational for me. Carlin, do you have any experience with that?
I would say that's a juggle.
Yeah.
Like, especially getting wrapped up into entrepreneurship, you always want to be doing these things and focused on all these little things, and having to take a step back and say, okay, I need to put my phone down. Like, we went camping about 3 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and that was fabulous because there was no reason to have a phone. Like I took a couple pictures, yeah, but watching our kids go up onto the mountain, and James and I sat next to a campfire, and I taught myself how to whittle. Like,
Who uses that word whittle before? Or who
no,
used that
no,
term whittle now?
I did. I whittled.
No, I
I
know
took
you
a
whittled. Who
I was
do you
like,
uses that term though?
I do now.
You do now?
So it's just getting to it's decompressing, and being present is just, it feels nice,
Yeah.
especially in a world that we're all so busy all the time doing things. And I understand, like I said earlier, I understand my mom's frustration. I understand why she's overwhelmed with everyone being on technology and all that stuff, but being on technology and being on my phone all the time, it's so we can go detach and not have
Yeah.
to worry.
Yeah. Yep.
See, Kim says whittle, whittle, whittle.
Oh, I freaking love James. Well, that kind of brings us to the last piece is ending the day on a positive note. And you as the journal queen, I know you're Kim says whittle whittle. You being the kind of the journal queen here, this is something that you and I both do that I absolutely love and has made a big change for me in how I go to bed and how I wake up is documenting those three wins for the day. Like going to bed and ending the day on a positive note. Now, let me be real clear, guys. When I say documenting your 3 wins for the day, I'm not talking about something necessarily that went right today. Could be a super fail today. But it's all about reframing those things and learning to be grateful for the lessons learned, for the failures, and seeing them as a win, seeing them as a positive. And it's funny because when you start to do that, especially in your business, those thoughts don't just begin and end at looking at failures in your business as a good thing. It's not like this thing that just is this thought process that is just confined to just business that turns on and off. It's literally something that will affect your entire life. It will affect your relationships with people you are doing business with, but also your friends, your family, your wife, your kids, your husband. When you start looking at failures and opportunity differently, and you start looking at them through the lens of gratitude, man, like the anxiety has just gone down dramatically, and it's affected my life in so many different ways. Just simply learning how to think.
If I had the day I had today 2 years ago, it would be a whole panic attack. So I'm going to say, just for context, my win for today is I successfully did not panic when everything was happening at the exact same time.
All right, folks. Well, you heard it here, man. Well, I appreciate everybody for joining us today. Thank you guys very much. Hopefully, you guys got some value out of today's episode. Again, I'm gonna wrap up those last little tidbits just so you guys have some action points and some talking points away from this. Although there was a lot, but specifically, start your day with a plan. Focus on the things that matter the most. Prioritize your day. Document. Don't wake up as if it was on accident. Don't waste your time on unimportant tasks or unimportant phone calls. Don't take phone calls and jump into Zooms and other meetings and things like that aren't helping you get where you're trying to go. Most people do that, and those serve as distractions, and they will keep you from getting where you want to go as fast. It's literally, if you want to get where you're going as slow as possible, then continue doing what you're doing. If you don't, then, and that includes, Carlin and I, we have to continue evolving and thinking differently and utilizing our time differently to get to where we're trying to go. So nobody is immune from this. But start your day with a plan. Focus on the things that matter most. Take breaks. It's important to take those breaks throughout your day to avoid burnout. Be present, be in the moment, and end your day on a very positive note. And with that, actually documenting your 3 wins, one of the other things that I do is I have a legal pad. And I actually got this idea from Grant Cardone that I started doing. I just buy a stack of legal pads, and every single night before I go to bed, I just write my goals on them. I don't do anything else. Don't do anything else. I don't document them differently. I'm not like adding and taking away and like creating this big journaling methodical process. All I'm doing is just documenting what my goals are for the day. I'll fill up the damn legal pad and then I'll chuck it. And then I'll get a new one and then I chuck it. I mean, that's the level of control, that we're talking about, guys. And when you have control over not only your environment and your business, but your thoughts and your actions, I mean, you really start to see some dramatic changes in your life and the people that come and enter your life. So anyway, those are kind of our little tidbits, guys. Thank you again for joining us. Appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Make sure you guys follow on Spotify. I think the last thing, Carlin, you got any other announcements? The only other thing I can think of is we officially have our last cohort for the year starting October 25th. And we've already started filling those seats up. So once they are filled up, they are gone. We're not doing any more classes until after the new year. So if you guys are interested or know somebody who's interested, we also do affiliates. So if you guys are interested in becoming an affiliate for the Growth Co, please reach out to either Carlin or I. We would love to see where else we can align and just make some money together, especially if you guys are connectors. If you're already talking to people, great way to continue, making some passive income. So anyway, Carlin, anything else I missed or anything else you'd like to announce?
Nope, you stole it right out of my mouth.
All right, cool, guys. Well, I appreciate you all. Thank you very much for joining us. You guys have an awesome rest of your weekend.